confirm. I don't know if she was on the invite that you sent out, Valen. So
Yes.
what was she on that one?
So yeah, normally when we send out all the invite, it goes to all our publishers, definitely.
Oh, okay. It's not
Yes. Yeah.
okay. Cool. Okay. Well, fingers crossed then. But yeah. So should we kick off? Do you want me to kick off or?
I can welcome everyone and then we can jump in if that's okay. Yeah. So, good morning, colleagues. We hope you are doing well. Thank you everyone for joining our meeting today. And then yeah, today's session is an exciting one. I think it's safe to say discussing it with Anton and Adam. It's been an opening. So we'll be hearing about the update of the ongoing vibe coding project that has been piloted by AIP since the first half of this year. And yeah, safe to say by now we sure do know who Anton and Adam is. And then yeah, I won't spend much time trying to introduce them. They are the best of the best. So yeah, Anton and Adam, please take it away. Thank you very much.
Adam, I don't know. You want to introduce the sort of like project?
Yeah, let me kick off, and I would just clarify that it's not the Anton and Adam show at all. It's just to clarify that yeah, thanks everybody for coming along and having a really good turnout as well. But basically, what we want to chat about today is a catch up on the Vibecoding pilot, which we've been running. I think we had a few meetings about it towards the end of last year. We kicked off, I think, sort of late October, November time properly. But just to kind of recap, it came out of the work that Herod and Anton had been doing, working with the new generation of AIs, the local language models, to develop digital products is what I'm going to call it. So it's not just about building websites, it's about using the tools that we're more familiar with, and a lot of the conversations in the sustainability meetings so far have been around using tools like Gemini and ChatGPT for the editorial processes for translation, research, those kinds of things. But what we've been really looking at is kind of the coding side of things. You know, how can these tools like Claude, Google's anti-gravity, Lovable is the one most people are using here. But they're similar kind of interfaces to the chat tools that you're probably a little bit more familiar with. But essentially what they spit out on the other side is digital products. So whether that's newsletters, newsletter platforms, websites, you know, they can essentially, they're really, really good at coding. And what we've been trying to learn is what AIP as an organization can do to support members who want to use these tools for building digital products with a view ultimately to making money from them. You know, where do they fit into the sustainability conversation? How can they improve on the tried and tested tools we have with web servers and WordPress and MailChimp and all the stuff that we're familiar with? And what can we do as an organization to put together the right kind of materials, structures, frameworks, training sessions? Sorry, that's my cat waving its tail in my face. To help people, you know, to ease people into these tools to produce digital products that are effective, money making, and she never does this. It's like, this is great. Effective money making and secure. You know, there's big conversations around the security of Vibecoding, as it's called, whether it is sort of fit for purpose for big enterprise apps. You know, how does that fit with publishers? So We've only got an hour, so I'm not going to say an awful lot more because my role has really been around kind of coordination and sort of sidelines support for publishers, and I think it's much more interesting to hear from publishers who've been actually making stuff. So what we're going to do is demo what everyone, a little bit of what everyone's been working on. We're not going to try and go through everything, and then have a bit of time, hopefully, for Q&As at the end. So, Anton, do you want to kick off? And if we can try and keep the sort of product demonstrations to like 10 minutes or so, I think, just to kind of give us time to have a conversation at the end. I'll hand over to you.
Okay, it's going to be difficult to stick that 10-minute, but thanks, Adam. And I don't have a. Okay, let me start off by saying that this discussion I would not have imagined a year ago. If you asked me a year ago, like, would we be able to sort of build this, or would I have tools like what we have now? I would have just like shaken my head and said, and it's not impossible, but it was just something that I wouldn't be able to grasp a year ago. That's how quickly our world has changed. How AI, or AI tools rather, has changed our industry. It's just worlds apart. I'm going to start sort of showing some of the stuff that we did, but it is very informal. I mean, it's not as if I'm this sort of expert. I'm just a publisher, like just about all of you. The only difference, perhaps, is I've got more exposure to some of these quite amazing tools. So interrupt me, stop me, and say you don't understand, or ask about it. I think this is all what it's about. And then also coming back to partly what Adam said, this is not about building websites or building tools. This is about survival. This is about saying, okay, I need to survive in my environment, which is quite different from the environment which, let's say, for instance, Peter Laderman sits in, or Moses sits in. All of our environments are different. Our sort of the readers are different. The people we cater for, and these tools enable us to quickly move and develop something that we think will allow us to better communicate with that audience. A year ago, I was struggling. I was trying to get a big Cape Town-based company to just help us and redevelop our website, a new CMS, to enable us to experiment with a token system, a subscription, things like that. It just never happened. I mean, you're too small. They don't get to you. You can't afford them in any case. I mean, their quote was something like 300,000 Rand per month to develop this. I mean, it's just out of the ballpark. We can't do that. And this is how much it does change, where I can do this on my own. Yesterday, I built a mobile light website. It took about an hour or two. I'll sort of touch on that as well. But that's how quickly you can see, okay, there's a need for that. I can build it. It's not about building fancy websites. It's about communicating and say, okay, my specific community are soccer mad. Can I sort of quickly develop a little app that allows me to publish league logs, soccer league logs? Yes, I can. I couldn't do that a year ago. Okay, but that's enough sort of talking. Let me share. I'll go back a bit and okay, and let's go to. We started off in around about October, November last year with the program. So the first thing we did, one of our newspapers, Southampton, which closed at the end of last year because of, it was simply wasn't viable anymore. Okay, so I'm not going to go much into the detail. It's a website, and you can click on this. This has all been built using Lovable, this AI tool, and I mean most of it, some advertising. We've got some quite amazing stuff. Which, I mean, for instance, the flipbook section. For a few years, I tried to convince someone to build a decent archive where we can put all the old newspapers. I mean, if you want to go to 2004, you can read the newspapers as little flipbooks there. To put that up, and I just never could find someone who was willing to do this. And It took a couple of days. And this is when we didn't really know how the technology worked, and it's all a little flibble. So all sorts of features, but most of them like nice to have, photo archives going through back many, many years. It's a work in progress. We're still adding to that. So it's got an amazing archive, even with an AI assistant. Okay, but so I'm not going to go too much in terms of, the content, because you can do the same. You can probably do in WordPress if you've got someone who's quite proficient in that. Let me go to the flagship one, which is the Limpopo Mirror. And I'm going to go into some of the stuff that we also developed, which is not for the public. And so this obviously, okay, let me also go in terms of the revenue options. We played around with the thing and say, okay, some of the content is premium, it's behind a paywall. So if you sort of want to read that, okay, I'm not logged in, so it will allow me. But if you're not logged in, it will ask you to sort of log in, and you need tokens or you need a subscription. So these are the sort of just the when we played around to say, okay, how can we monetize part of our content? Some of it sort of, we've learned a lot of lessons. We're still learning a lot of lessons. But the point is we can move and we can implement various things. We can sort of run advertising models. We can we can experiment with it. So this is a front end. Again, also photo archives, flipbooks, archive within internal AI assistant. I want to go back to what is not for public, for instance, like the newsroom. Now, the newsroom is something that we've built for our own reporters. And it starts off with monitoring social media feeds. I put here and say, okay, this is the SAPS here, that's Tulamela municipality, that's Makado municipality. So if I, for instance, interested in specific, there's a mob justice incident in our area, I can quickly go through the press release. I can allocate it to a reporter and say, follow up on that, and see if you can get a bit more information. Or I can see, okay, municipalities, government departments. So it's a quick monitoring thing that we built, social media monitoring. The same with news feeds. What I do is I put in keywords. I'm only interested in the Vembe district. So that's the driver of the bus that died yesterday transporting. So I can quickly see what's that. And I can say, okay, no, get someone follow up on that. Well, we obviously got that as well, but it's monitoring. Then quite a nice little thing that we've built is municipal documents, monitoring that. Most of you operate in municipalities, small municipalities or regional. Okay, one of the problems is always they're quite reluctant to provide you with annual financial statements, the audit reports, but these are available. They're available on National Treasury. So built a little tool that quickly goes and checks. For instance, let's say that's Makado municipality. I'm interested in the integrated development plan, budget documentation. There's some, the annual financial statements that's for the last year is not yet available, as are the annual reports. Once these become available, they'll download that. So firstly, it'll go and check. If I tell it to go and run a scan on Treasury and see if you can find any sort of newly filed documents. Now, there are hundreds or thousands of documents in National Treasury. I'm only interested in 5 municipalities, so I've set up filters, and it will actually now go and it will go and see if those documents or are there any new documents. Now, for someone on the outside, this may not be a big deal. So what? You get a budget document. If you're reporting on municipalities, it is quite a big deal because you don't just go on the mayor's speech when she delivered the budget. You can get the budget. You can get then go back and compare it to last year's annual financial statements. You can so there. Okay, run a scan, and I see there's a procurement plan. DC 34 would be Vembe, or there's a tariff policy on property rates. Okay, so it picked up. There were 2 new documents loaded since I last checked, and I can either download them Let me just download one and I can ignore the other one. So I'm not interested in that one. It's just a draft one. And it will then immediately add it. It'll strip it out and it'll dump the copy in a database. So now I can go and I can either use the AI assistant and say, okay, search for, all the documents are listed. To use an example, I've actually got a few saved ones here because you can save your results. Let's say I pick up in the budget speech of the mayor of Messina that they are allocating a couple of more millions to rebuild the showgrounds and make provision for like what is happening at the moment there for immigrants sort of leaving the country or entering the country. I can then say, okay, well, let me go and search through Messina municipality, all those, and I'll go, let's say for the last 3 years, I can search through that and say, okay, tell me what was spent on Messina showgrounds in the past 3 years, or are there any other sort of, anything in IDPs? Okay, so, but I'm not going to go through all that. It's just, it's quite amazing because what happens then is it sends it to Google's Gemini and it'll come back with a report and say, okay, this is what. Now, it makes it so much easier to report on your municipality if you've got access to all the information and you've got an AI assistant that helps you make sense of that. So anyway, that is that's sort of just a bit of how we use these tools. It's not just for the front end, where the people see, whether it's a marketplace, whether it's archives. We also use it in the back end. And obviously, we use it extensively to gather data with monitoring and see exactly what is happening, see which articles are popular, which authors are sort of popular, Flipbook, spot traffic, all these. It'll just take a few seconds to load because it's quite a lot of data that now needs to pull. But it's also the engine room for the experiments where we can see, okay, all right, so let's page visits, when was it popular? The recently published articles, I mean, these ones went up a few minutes ago, but I can go back to the other ones and I can quickly see, okay, there's quite a popular one or things like that. Or we'll obviously just go to the top articles, the top premium ones, the top free articles. So this whole backend is also like the engine room. It allows us to quickly compile newsletters. The newsletter is also a thing that we built. It instead of you going to a MailChimp or something like that and having to copy and paste, pull the images, I mean, this is just a breeze. It takes me about 15, 20 minutes to compile a newsletter because it pulls the data from the same platform. Okay, so I mean, we can go later and questions. I want to do 2 other things, also share what we did. The latest ones would be a mobile site. It's the, let me just, I'm not sure if it's going to do that. Okay, the mobile site, hopefully, yes, you can see it. So this is a light version. Okay, no, it's not the right one. Just want to do something else here. And I hope you can follow. There we go. That's a light version. This is specifically formatted for mobile. And what it does is quite neat. If you open it up and it picks up you on, you've got Wi-Fi, it'll immediately go and it'll go and cache the articles. So if I now go offline, I'm at home, I haven't got any data or I've got no Wi-Fi, I can still read all these articles. So they're already cached there. And, I mean, it's not as flashy as a full site, but it works quite neatly. And like it's, so this is one of the latest experiments. Again, it took me less than an hour to build that. Okay, the final one is, I want to show you also some of the projects outside of the website that we did. And this is a separate discussion probably, but it fits into, you've got an idea, you can build it. Another application we built is the news soup. Now that is like an eBay for content. The idea would be that publishers like ourselves produce content, but there may be a further market for that. So then it's like, okay, you can register and you put it out there and say, okay, is anyone interested in the story about ICASA that says only 2 licenses or whatever? These are just examples, but although they're from our own stuff. So it's an open bidding system where publishers, like the bigger publishers, can say, okay, yes, well, show me something from Limpopo. I'm interested in Limpopo. I'm interested in crime. Okay, probably haven't got crime. Let's go local municipalities, or let's just business and finance. Let's just go all big. Sorry, they're not that many yet. But so a bigger publisher can see, okay, I'm interested in that specific story about ICASA. I can make an offer on it. I can either sort of say, okay, I'm willing to pay your price and syndicate it. I want an exclusive. So it's very much in a development phase yet, and it sort of it works 2 ways. So that, like, you can also have journalists selling their stories here, or pitching and say, okay, I can do I'm willing to do a story on, the Quiet Club's a small town newspaper. Anyone interested? And this is what my price for it is, but then the bargaining can start. Okay, so it's not just newspapers, it's also the business of news, where I don't have to wait for a big national company to sort of allocate a team of developers and take a couple of months to sort of make this idea that I've got to get it into a website. I can do it myself if I've got a couple of hours spare. I think for now, let's stop sharing. I think that's from my side. Adam, I don't know if you want sort of questions now. You want to first continue with some of the others?
Let's hold the questions to the end, because I want to give everybody a chance to kind of show what they've been working on and stuff. And obviously, Anton's been working on this for longer than the other people in the pilot, and just the speed of development is accelerating. There's so much stuff coming out of Zeitnet and Limpopo now that it can be a little bit hard to keep up. But thanks, Anton. We'll like I say, we'll do questions after we've looked at all 3 projects, if that's okay with everybody. So I'm going to hand over now to Zinkley at Inkwindler Zimbabwe. Zinkley, are you there, and how's your network? Do you want me to share my screen for you with the app on?
Morning, Adam. Morning, teams. Nelson Makwaza here from Inkundla Zindaba on behalf of Zinkley, but I'm with her.
Sorry about that. I thought it was. Do you want me to share my screen, or is your network okay to share screen? Or?
Yes, please do share.
Cool. Okay, so this is the mobile app that you've been working on. Do you want to take us through where you were sort of a few months ago before you joined the project, and sort of what you've been working on since?
Oh, I have to update new things we updated, or I can continue, or I have to start from the scratch. Let's do a presentation. Can we do the presentation so it's going to be clear to a lot of people what is it that we have done, me and my team. Nelly Siwe is going to take you guys through to everything that we have done. Inkundla Zindaba News application was developed using the Lovable app platform to provide readers with easy access to news and information published by Inkundla Zindaba. The application functions as a digital news platform where users can view articles, watch videos, interact with content, and access additional services such as tickets purchasing, donation, subscription, and event. And also, you can share meeting messages if you want to upload the message meeting. It's local for community or it's school meeting. A key features of the application is it's an integration with Inkundla Izindaba news website. News published on the website automatically appear on the application less than 20 minutes, ensuring that content remain up to date without requiring manual duplication. In addition to this integration, the application now allows the administrator to publish news article direct from the admin panel, making content management faster and more efficient. No need to upload from website. Then afterwards, up here on the app, we can also upload Google app straight. The application is designed with a simple users-friendly interface that allow users to scroll through and access news content easily. The platform supports news article, videos, events, and interacts with the users. The demonstration also manage events with display to users. User can also comment news article. The new analytics features allow the administrator to see how many users like each story and view users' comments. It's helped to monitor, engage, and identify popular stories, which story maybe got more likes, more comments. The administrator can create and edit and publish news article directly from application. The administrator can also manage all features were tested to ensure that news article events like comments are able to work correctly and through application remain stable. As the Inkundla News Hub application is comprehensive digital news platform that's combine news publishing, multiple content, users engage, and event management. News publishing, event management further improve the platform and made it easier to manage content while providing users with the better experience. The application will also, if it's downloadable, will also use only data for download. Then afterwards, you can have access to see and read our news without data. We will have maybe 50 or 20 MB. I'm making an example to download the app. Then afterwards, you can have access to read our news that uploaded. In our features, we have Open News, Upingi, we have English stories, we have KZN, we have stories that all happening in KZN. It's like in province as a spundazwe. We have climate change, since we know every day so we add that feature. Yeah, let me wait here for now.
Thanks, Elisa. And just to reiterate, the kind of the important thing with this, the most important thing with this app is in how it differs from some of the kind of WordPress plugin type apps that you can easily plug into a WordPress site. Is that it is, as Elisa is saying, it's you download, you can. Community members can download everything when they're in range of a Wi-Fi hotspot and then browse it at their leisure away from that hotspot. So it's kind of been designed from that app, and yeah, it looks really slick and plugs in directly to your website's pretty new as well, isn't it? This was the website was launched at the beginning of the year before you joined this project. So this is a kind of traditional WordPress site that the app reads from, but then adds all the additional features to in the back end. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. And then the SIBA isn't. I don't think is Valent. Has the SIBA managed to log in yet? Is he still struggling?
He was still struggling. I tried to share a direct link with him, but yeah, he was still struggling.
Okay, so I'll kind of go through quickly what he's been working on. So Nasiba is the editor of Student Living, which is one of the Mediate's publications. And obviously Student Living is slightly different in that it's a national publication and but niche by audience. It's produced for students specifically. So one of the first things we did just to get comfortable with the tools was to create this little game that can be embedded on the website and shared on social media and so on. My first week at Varsity, very, very simple game again. Creating it with Lovable made this very easy. It didn't just kind of come up with the design. I think it also helped sort of create the questions and the output at the end of it, where it sort of rates what your first week at university was like. But that was sort of the beginning, the very simple thing that they started with, just to kind of get used to building things with Lovable. And the product that they're about to launch at the moment is addressing a challenge for them internally that historically a lot of the website has been kind of focused on very, very kind of focused on sort of negative news about campus life. A lot of stories about protests and challenges, and because they're quite a small team, it's quite hard to stay on top of everything that happens at every higher education institute around the country. So what they've been building is an internal tool that's a little bit similar to the one Anton was showing around the news aggregator that Limpopo Mirror is using, but this one pulls specifically from university-related content. So whether it's looking for stories about NASFAS, it's looking for stories from the different university websites, which don't all have RSS feeds to make remote reading easy. And then this tool is used to can either be used to push stories if it's a press release or something they want to republish directly. It can be used to publish directly onto their WordPress site without change. There's no editing of the WordPress site going on. Or it can be used to commission writers or set briefs for the editorial team and pick up on stories that are happening that they might otherwise have missed. So there's quite a few. I don't know. I wish I would. It's a shame that Steve's having real problems logging in for some reason, because there's some features here which I don't know the ins and outs of exactly, but at the top of the dashboard there's a panel for curation. So I think these are the stories that are selected for writing. There's story ideas, which is a kind of Kanban board for following the progress of stories as writers work on them. And then I think the queue is what's going to WordPress and is scheduled. And Nasiba's just joined us. Hi, Nasiba. Sorry, man. I kind of went through the tool a little bit because I don't want us to run over time. But yeah, do you want to? I know you've only just joined us, but if you want to sort of talk about how you built this and any challenges or how easy Lovable was to build the Campus Connect dashboard. Are you there?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you for your patience. And good morning to everyone who joined us. Yes, this is Lisiba from Student Living. I was one of the few journalists who were given an opportunity to be part of the pilot coding by AIP. And thank you very much for the opportunity offered. So on the dashboard, as it has been shared by Adam, you can see that here we are talking about the story ideas, whereby it can be run by the journalist in our newsroom. They can do the story ideas here, and then you as the editor, you can come back to the dashboard and then approve or make some notes to the journalist to further do research on the story that they want to do. And then as for the news feed, we have decided to take Adam, can you go to discovery, please? We have decided to get the news feed from different universities across South Africa, and also from the companies or NGOs that are specifically working with the youth or with the students. Because our paper or our publication, we are specifically focusing more on the stories that on students and also youth. So what we have curated here, we tried to get all the content coming from different universities and also NGOs that are focusing on that. And then for these articles, when we want them to be on the WordPress, on the back end of our website, we have to approve them, and then we go to queue. Adam, can you go to queue, please? Yes. When you get to queue, that's where these stories are being approved, and then you push them to WordPress. And then when you push them to WordPress, then you go to your dashboard, your website dashboard, and then that's where you can be able to edit it according to the style of your publication, and also you can be able to get the images that you want to accompany the article. So the work that we have done here, we have been using the Lovable. So to do the prompts, I was using the code, what is it, Claude? Yes, Claude AI. That's the Claude code. Sorry, that's the AI that I've been using, because it is very good when coming to do the prompting. So I was using it so that I can be able to feed the Lovable on what needs to be done to ensure that our dashboard runs effectively. Back to you, Adam. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Asiba. And I think that's one thing. Yeah, so just to kind of wrap up, we've worked with I think 5 publishers in total. These are the kind of the 3 that are doing a lot of interesting stuff with the tools. And we've learned an awful lot in this process. And as Asiba was saying there, one of the things we've learned is that obviously, or maybe not obviously, but Lovable, the interface that you're looking at now, it has your chat interface on the left here. You can ask it to make something, it will make something in the window on the right. But to use it seriously, you have to subscribe, and the subscription is not expensive. But what Asiba was talking about there is to keep costs down and reduce the number of prompts you're putting into Lovable. What he's been doing is going to Claude, one of the other chatbots, getting Claude to write the prompt for Lovable, and then taking the prompt into Lovable. So he gets a very detailed, very specific set of instructions to put into the paid LLM. so that the number of calls going to Lovable is reduced, and it just keeps the costs down and makes them more manageable from that point of view. So those are the kinds of things, the little hacks we've been exploring, the ways to make these tools most useful and efficient. And what we have learned and what we'll be documenting and sharing with everybody is all of these learnings, and we've learned a lot from Anton on what these tools prefer to use when they build a website, and out of the box they don't build sites that fits all of the sort of it's not really a technical requirement, but I'll call it a technical requirement just because it's an easy shorthand. But they don't build new sites in a way that works for publishers out of the box. So if you go to Lovable and you say, please build me a new site, your site won't be readable by Facebook, for example. So when somebody shares a link in Facebook, it won't link to the story. It won't be readable by Google by default. So it can break your SEO and your Google rankings and things like that. So these are all the problems that we've been working through and figuring out, what are the best prompts to use, what is the best additional resources to use to make sure that it doesn't impact publishing in a negative way. And then I think the most important lesson beyond that and the costing stuff is really around discipline. What these tools give you is the ability to build anything at all very quickly, without calling in an external developer. And the problem with being able to build anything is then how do you decide what is the right thing for your organization and your audience, most importantly your audience, to build. So we're thinking through things from the point of view of what is the problem we're trying to solve with every thing we build in Lovable, and starting small, starting addressing specific issues like my audience cannot access the website unless they're in range of a free Wi-Fi hotspot. I cannot monitor the news feeds from all of the universities. It's a really good way to start to build up to more advanced stuff. And like I say, where Anton is now, I lose track of everything that is coming out of his office because it's just incredibly prolific. But I'll stop there. We've got just over 10 minutes left. So yeah, does anybody have any questions for any of the publishers? Yeah, go ahead, Moses.
Okay, no, thanks very much for the presentations, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, I have a few questions for each of the presenters. For Anton, I see the innovative way of building the news engine in the back end for sourcing information and so on. And I think that's a great idea because in the past we used to rely on faxes coming through the machine, and now we move to email, and now we're getting AI that can source information, and then journalists can have leads from that. But I was more interested in the e-commerce part, the news selling, but I was hoping you will move more to other e-commerce platforms that publishers can implement on their newspapers, because recently we were exploring with a delivery system that you can put on your newspaper and then get the communities to order from it and so on. So those ideas of the type of e-commerce platforms that we can introduce on our publications and then are easy to implement. For example, the delivery system, you will then have to partner with the delivery transport people and that has got challenges, particularly in townships where motorbikes they are. That's why the 60 is not operating in townships, because they are afraid of being marked and so on and so on. So more ideas of the type of e-commerces that we can introduce on our platforms can help. And to the second presentation, I was more interested in the part where you say after downloading the app, readers can then go through your content without having to use data. How does that work? If you can maybe explain a little bit. And to the last presentation, I see the issue of sourcing news from universities and so on, and having your journalists edit the content and so on. But my interest is more on the journalism interface. That now, where does the journalism interface come in terms of news sourcing, verification, and all of that? Because then, if you are relying more on press statements that are coming from the universities and so on, then it sort of becomes a PR exercise for the newspaper. You become a PR for those universities and so on. So I'm more interested in the journalism interface in the whole ecosystem there. Thanks very much. That will be it for me now. Thanks.
Thanks, Moses. The CB, you've got your hand up. Do you want to go first on response there?
Yes, please let me go first before Anton comes. Thank you very much, Moses, for the question regarding our dashboard. So take this dashboard as a diary. Whenever you go to the office on Mondays or on Tuesdays, you do you diarize your stories. So take these stories as a diary. So because our journalists will be having an access to this, they'll be able to see what has been happening in the ground, and then they take that and then be able to write the articles as they are in their own way, by also checking the sources that they can be in touch with, without merely doing the copy and paste. So that's our aim. So the journalistic part of it is still happening on the dashboard. So we are not killing it. In fact, we are giving more story ideas to run with, because sometimes, when we get to the office on Monday or Tuesday, journalists don't have stories to give you. But when you have dashboard like this, you have quite a number of story ideas that you can run with in your newsroom. Thank you very much for the question.
Thanks, Asiba. Anton?
Moses, thanks. You actually asked like three very interesting questions, and I would want to not sort of speak for the others, but I think I'd like to sort of add some comments to that. Let me start up with the e-commerce part, and I'll share my screen again and just quickly go to that. You'll see we've got a marketplace here. And what we started off was mostly just books. Okay, now this was built and lovable. We didn't pay some company thousands of rands to build it. You just basically tell it what you need, and the LLM picks up on so many other templates that it's not too difficult for it to build it like that. And you've got your shopping cart, you've got your wish list, so you can do it yourself. Okay, I'm not saying that you should do it yourself, but it really isn't that difficult to do that. But the important part of that, and this comes back to what are we busy doing with? I don't really, I can't sort of gamble and paying someone, let's say 50 or 100,000 for an e-commerce module on a website. I'm not going to get that money back. It's just a luxury that we don't have. At the same time, we need, I need to experiment. I need to see whether these things are working. So e-commerce, we played around with. We learned a few lessons. Currently, it doesn't look like it's really viable. We also looked at some other options. I talked about the token system and selling tokens. That's sort of like a prepaid. It showed some promise. We need to work further on that. The subscription part of it, actually sort of, we didn't initially plan that. But these are all sort of e-commerce type of projects. It's experiments. But it doesn't really cost us a lot of money to try them. If they don't work, then so be it. We move on to another one. This is the beauty of what we're doing. It's almost like you've got your own in-house web developer, and you tell them, okay, no, I want to try that. And unlike your human web developer who comes with like, oh no, it can't be done. It's going to take at least 3 weeks just to do that. And this Lovable doesn't really complain. You can ask it 3 o'clock in the morning to build this. It doesn't really, it just starts doing it. Yes, it costs you some money in terms of tokens, but it's relatively like a small amount. Okay, so in short, it allows you to experiment. The e-commerce, you also need to always keep in mind, what are we? We are publishers. I'm not a courier company. I don't want to be a courier company. But sometimes you need to deviate a bit to make ends meet. I'm going to sort of go on to the second question, but it's not aimed at me, but I think I can partly answer it. You asked about the offline browsing. So this one is, this is the, let's say, it looks quite nice on a cell phone. Well, it's not, I mean, you can only do that much in terms of layout on a cell phone. The moment you open it up and it picks up that it's got Wi-Fi, it caches. You'll see there's a summary at the right at the bottom. Might be a bit small for you now, but it cached 20 articles and 44 images. Now these images are small. Now that information sits on your phone or on in your browser. If you open it up in a browser, that's sort of your temporary memory, but it keeps it that. So if later tonight I open it up again, it will still have that. It won't be able late tonight if I to pull the latest articles. It will now wait for you to get online again. So on the more technical part, we can do this as an official app registered on Apple's Apple Store and Google's Play Store. That costs money. The moment what we do now, it's effectively, it looks like an app, but it basically it's just a type of a browser window in the skin of an app. But I think for our market, it would be fine, and probably for your market and most of the markets that we serve, that would be perfect. So hopefully that answered part of your questions. The more technical is how much of these information can a browser save. It's better to get them to put it loaded onto their home screen on the desktop. Then it's actually uses different type of memories. The last one that I also want to touch on, going back to previous one, just stop sharing here. You ask about going around, basically using RRS feed, collecting the information, scraping, and is there a temptation to simply copy that? Yes, of course there is. I mean, we all deal with journalists now. All of them use AI, and I think just about all of you would have the problem in terms of you find a piece of copy and you can see this is not that person's work, but you actually don't bother too much because it's better than what that person could have offered you. So now you need to see, okay, how can I use it? What are the ethical parts of that? I mean, this is a press release that the journalist just ran through ChatGPT and presented to you. Should you sort of send it back? We try to be quite flexible. We have a system where we say, okay, we've got news and briefs, and we don't really bother. Like if it's like a press release, like what I showed earlier, let them run it through Claude, ChatGPT, or what, sort of just do a few changes, edit it like you would normally do, and put it up. The reason we do that is for speed and to, in a way, counteract social media, where the moment that press release is out, you'll find it on a dozen or so social media pages. So we don't want to fight that, but we also don't want to say, okay, well, we're not going to carry that news. The news is important enough. But that's not the journalism that we do. From there, and like as previously said, Siva said that we tend to use that as leads and say, okay, listen, that specific, there was a rape incident in that, or there was a also this on a website, it was a gang, it was a mob justice incident. So we would use that and say, okay, how many mob justices were there in that specific region? Is it actually getting more, or is it sort of showing a downward trend? Look at statistics, go and speak to people, find the humans behind that, find the mother of the person who may have been killed. So yes, it's a combination, because there is a temptation to just use press releases, run it through AI, and use it as your stuff. We can't say, no, we're not going to do that, because if we do that, we will lose the fight against so many other mediums that quickly get information out. We also have to get information out very quickly, but it shouldn't be the core of what we do. I hope that sort of answered part of you're asking.
Thanks, Anton. Zintley, did you want to add anything to that?
Okay, you can download the app with data, then afterwards you have access with our stories. If you have data, or we are in a Wi-Fi hotspot, you are able to have all stories, new and old. Then afterwards, let's say you have data today, then tomorrow you don't have data, you will able to have access all those stories we were sharing, like maybe last 2 days. But all stories on the website, you can able to have it. Like we have la story yethu yanamhlanje bahlomule ngezamba ezahlukene abaqophi bamafilimu nabamaciko masipala wethwiko. Then this is the last story. Then if you came back maybe tomorrow, you still don't have data, you will still find these stories. Then if you have data, you will see new stories. You will continue to have new stories. But if you don't have that data, you don't have access for new one. I'm not sure, or are you okay?
Thanks, Annalise. Sorry. Thanks. Cool. So do we have any other questions for the publishers? I'm mindful that we're at 11 o'clock already. I don't want to take up too much more time. Do we have any other questions or about for the other publishers or about the project in general? Yeah, go ahead, Basis.
Yeah, Adam, I just wanted to say thanks to the presenters for the clarity they've provided. And what I'm getting is that most of the press releases are back facing and not front facing, because student living, when they presented it, it looked like it's their front facing content. So now I understand that there's the back facing content that journalists can use as sources and so on, just like the one that Anton presented. And then thanks also for explaining that how the app works offline and so on. Thanks, Adam.
It's really about. Oh, sorry, carry on, Anton.
Yeah, if I can quickly comment. Sorry, yes, you're quite right. But there's something important that I do want to show you, if you like, just 2-3 minutes. Let me just share again, because you talk about front-end phasing and back-end phasing. Okay, now let me show you on the map. Okay, good show. You'll see this specific block. ground up. Okay. Now that is actually content that doesn't stem from our own feed. I can go to more ground up articles as well. So what we do here is the RSS feed pulls ground up articles, and that's based on certain filters. Okay, so I would say now I'm interested in anything in Limpopo, I'm interested in SASA, things like that. So the moment it picks up that there's an article that sort of meets those the criteria, it would immediately display it here. And I mean, that ironically is one of our own articles that Ground Up published this morning. Okay, so, and the readers can read it there. But I don't have I basically allocate that block to Ground Up. We did the same with Africa Check as well, but unfortunately, Africa Check via Cloudflare started to block all RSS feeds, so it didn't want to come through anymore. Okay, so that is automatic feed, and it's something that we're actually quite enthusiastic about it, because I see a lot of opportunity for small publishers serving as a conduit for whether it's Africa Check, Ground Up, or any others where we say, okay, we've got people doing stories. The stories are really good. Why do you bother trying to rewrite Ground Up's story? Why don't you just display it? You still got control over your platform. You can decide which of Ground Up stories appear there, but you don't have to bother to try and edit it, shorten it. You just allocate a space. So that is an example where, and this is not AI, basically it's just displaying RSS feed. Or you can do an API as well. Hopefully, it allows you to make your platform available for others to make their articles visible.
Thanks, Anton. Valen, I see your hands up.
Thank you very much, Adam. And yeah, safe to say thank you for everyone that has presented. I think on my side, in terms of what in closing, and thank you for those that have stayed past the agreed hour. Thank you very much for that. So I think on my side, it's more or less on those that are still skeptical, right? What advice or what is it that you can suggest they start with? We have publishers that are really interested, but then they're just overwhelmed in terms of the LLMs that are out there, all the AI tools that are out there. So in terms for publishers that have already started this process, what is it that you recommend that they do as their first step? That's the first question. And I think this one, Adam, this is exciting. Anything that has to do with vibe coding saves publishers a significant amount of time and money. But then the question that I want to ask is based on sustainability, right? Do we have our website, or for those that have started this process, are the website and applications backed up independently? Because now if Lovable rolls out like a major update or change whatever their settings, right? What is the contingency plan that will ensure that we don't lose functionality and control of what the publishers have already started or have already built so far? So yeah, that's for me. Thanks.
So I'm going to answer quickly because I actually have to jump off of take my daughter to the airport. So on the first one, I'd say the first thing to do is talk to us. So the reason we've kind of got everybody together today is because we want to expand this pilot. We want to bring more people in, and we want to find out what other people are doing, and if more people are interested in sort of learning these tools, support them. And we're going to carry the pilot on until at least the end of August, and next week we'll send out some information as to how more publishers can get involved. But yeah, essentially, if you're building something, tell us about it, because we want to share learnings with the whole membership, and really figure out how to use these tools to help everybody. So yes, and then again, like I said, if you're starting out by yourself, or want to figure out what to do first, do something small, play around with things, just experiment, do stuff that doesn't have to go live. That's just that you just want to see what the apps come out with. Like those games that we built on Student Living, You know, if they hadn't been published, it wouldn't have been a dramatic loss, but it was a really good learning process to figure out, you know, how to get comfortable with prompting, because it does feel very, very alien initially. In terms of future sustainability, that is a really, really good question. You know, in terms of kind of what it costs publishers, we think that's quite manageable. You know, we haven't run into, well, apart from a few issues early on learning the tools, you know, none of the technical issues have been massively difficult to overcome. I mean, there were a few, but I won't go into them now. But where these tools go with cost, yeah, I think that is a legitimate concern. The AI subscriptions for enterprise coding are going up. We know the AI companies got to recoup the money that's been invested into AI. I think and I think that's a big issue if you're churning out millions of lines of code a month and you're working for SAP or Salesforce or one of the big corporate SaaS providers. I actually think, you know, most of the stuff that we're building, most of the things that are useful to publishers, they're not complicated apps. You know, for the most part, they're not huge. You know, we're not reinventing things necessarily. We're just plugging things together in cheaper ways than previously. And I think my feeling is that for the kind of level of stuff that we're building at the AIP level, it's not going to change dramatically for costs. There's so much competition for onboarding people, and at this end, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. And if it does, you know, we can explore as an organization our own solutions. You know, there are enough open source models now that we could do a lot of this stuff running off of the local machine. It's just much quicker and easier at the moment to use Lovable. But if Lovable's costs spike to, you know, hundreds of dollars a month, we would still be able to do what we're doing now. We just switch to local machines and figure out a way of making those kinds of things available locally. That's a longer discussion, I think. And I realise we're over time now. So, but yeah, does that answer your question? Cool. Yeah. So just to wrap up from my side, thanks to Limpopo Mirror Student Living and Nkundla Zindaba for showing us what they've been working on. I hope it's been inspiring and giving you a new way to think about, you know, how applicable AIs are to community publishers beyond working with content. And yeah, please do get in touch with us if you've got any questions or want to join the pilots, or you've been working on something you want to show off, and we can include in our best practice materials that we're preparing for everybody. But yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. I'll hand back over to you, to close up.
No problem. Now, I think it's safe to say that was a fantastic close-up. But yeah, thank you to all the publishers. Thank you to all the presenters. And then, yeah, thank you, Anton. Thanks, Adam. So yeah, safe to say we will definitely share the recording. And yeah, like Adam said, if you are interested in joining, please feel free to keep in touch or just touch base with us, and then we will direct you to the right people. But yeah, other than that, do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for honoring the meeting and for allowing us to pass over the hour mark. Thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.